Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the procession. Please continue to stand for the national anthem. Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by the Reverend Dr. Craig Coker, University Chaplain. Dr. Coker.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give thanks for these graduates who have finished their course of study. We are grateful for those who have walked at their side, for the friendships they have made, the insights they have found, and the knowledge they now possess. Give them a right pursuit of justice and truth. Keep them attentive to conscience, servants of the common good, and honest and humble with all. Amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Craig. Director Comey, distinguished guests, colleagues, parents, friends, and class of 2016. It is my privilege as president to welcome you to the 144th ceremony awarding degrees to graduates of the School of Law as part of the 186th commencement of the University of Richmond. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the families of our graduates and to thank you for the support and guidance that have helped our graduates reach this moment. It is a pleasure to celebrate with you the achievements of our 2016 graduates who have been part of our community of scholars here at the University of Richmond. Graduates, we know that years of hard work have preceded this moment, and we applaud your passion and determination. Many of you have told me of the closeness you've enjoyed with your classmates and the attention you have received from the faculty, and of the sense of community that is a hallmark of Richmond Law. Today is a special day in this community as we recognize the individual and collective achievements of the class of 2016 and look forward to your continued accomplishments in the years ahead. I am confident that your education has prepared you to make a difference in the world and in the lives of others. And I'm also grateful that through your service to society, you will help the university to fulfill its commitment to the promotion of justice and the common good. Thank you, and congratulations.
On behalf of the faculty and staff of the law school, I too welcome you to the ceremonies where we award the degrees to the class of 2016. We now turn to our first speaker. In keeping with our tradition of active student involvement, we ask the class to select a student to speak for them at their graduation. This year, they have chosen Liz Tyler. As a student, Liz was active on the University of Richmond Law Review, the Career Development Advisory Board, and the Richmond Women's Law Association. She was also part of the John Marshall Scholars Program and a member of the McNeil Law Society. I'm very pleased to present Liz Tyler.
Good afternoon. One of my best friends in college has the enthusiasm of a small child. And anytime we had something fun planned the next day, Jess would come to me and say, "Liz, I'm too excited to sleep." I don't know about y'all, but last night I was almost too excited to sleep. Today we graduate. Today's more than just our graduation though. It's also Mother's Day Eve. So happy early Mother's Day, all the moms out there. Without you, we would not have made it to this moment, so thank you. Of course, it's not just our moms, it's our dads, our grandparents, and our in-laws. You all write us letters, text us all the emojis, and tell anyone who's willing to listen just how proud of us you are. It's our husbands, wives, girlfriends, and boyfriends. You all are some kind of saints or some kind of crazy for putting up with this. You celebrate our victories, and you listen to us whine, and we whine a lot. It's our sisters, our brothers, and our best friends. You believe in us when we lose faith in ourselves. It's our sons and daughters, the Sammys and Franklins, the Miriams and Maxes, who remind us that sometimes picking apples, carving pumpkins, or playing hide and seek is more important than work. I'm happy to announce the newest member of the Richmond Law family, as Chris and Casey Keegan welcomed a baby girl yesterday night. You all, friends and family, are our biggest fans and closest confidants. Whether you came from across town, across the country, whether you're watching on the live stream or looking down on us from heaven, each of us has support around us that brought us to this place. And I don't know about everybody else, but for me, law school was not what I expected. Law school is weird. You thought contracts was going to be cut and dry. It turns out contracts is about a pregnant barren cow or a guy named Harry and all the stuff he wants to do to a table. You thought property meant land and other stuff, and you were right, but it was also about foxes and whales and people in Chicago putting chairs out in the street. Con law, the fundamental pillars of American government. And one day, Professor Walsh sings Kesha lyrics to explain the limits of the market participant doctrine. And you think, finally, a case I can relate to. Torts. If you're honest, you kind of pretended you knew what torts were. And you found out torts is a story about an unfortunate canister vacuum and an underpublicized superhero named Tortman. The list goes on, but you get it. Whatever we thought we were getting into, most of the time we were wrong. There's one thing that I think we got right, though. The heart of what makes Richmond Law a great place to be is its community, its people. We have professors dedicated to making us the best new lawyers that we can be, in and out of the classroom. They challenge us to challenge ourselves. They mentor us and connect us to the legal world beyond the law school. They sing and dance, they don tuxedos, they bowl and play basketball. They're not any good, but still. Professors make this school great, and I think the staff make this place excellent, as they are the ones often running the show and making everyone else look good. Faculty and staff make Richmond special, but it is equally the students, this group in front of me, who make this community what it is. We came here as teachers, artists, and farmers, as engineers, elite athletes, and business owners. We span 20-some years in age, and we hail from small towns and big cities. We have among us a truly phenomenal group of veterans. Some of us came here following in the footsteps of generations, and some of us are reaching new educational heights in our families. Whether we came here from around the corner or around the globe, we all made Richmond home for the last 3 years, and I've been lucky to be surrounded by such a group. I see people who are driven yet supportive, each wanting to succeed but quicker to share the successes of others than their own. We work as teams in clinics, on journals, competition boards, and other student groups. We cheer our friends through a final round of a competition, and we comfort our colleagues in trying times. We spent endless hours in the library. We created every law-related meme and hashtag that our creative legal skills could muster. And we celebrate as much as we commiserate together. Whether it's mountains of cake from Shindigs, ice-cold limeades at the Continental, or weekend brunch, we find our outlets. We run, bike, and hike. We cook together, and we bake for each other. We jump through all the hoops and requirements to get here today. Some of them official, some unofficial. At casino nights, barristers' balls, and DUs, we cleaned up nice. Through internships, placements, and jobs, we grew together as professionals. Then there's Bubba and Miko's Halloween party. I think under a new policy, that one is actually mandatory to attend. Don't worry, Dean Gibson's gonna send out an email later on that one. But for all the fun we've each had trying times as well. Moments of self-doubt and inadequacy, the times that we give it our all but come up short. We lost people we love, and we have hurt. We have cultivated this incredible community, and I think that we need it most in those times. From these moments, I hope we develop a sense of humor, we become a little self-deprecating, and hopefully we practice humility. Some of us have been told for as long as we can remember that we should be lawyers. From my own experience, I think that means we talk too much. We need to shut up and listen more. Others of us are quiet, observing, letting ideas percolate. When the quiet among us speak, it's usually something everyone needs to hear. In this profession, I believe that we must be authentic. We must remain true to ourselves, but we also have to be willing to get uncomfortable, to embrace our abilities as tools for doing good. One of my yoga instructors once told me that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And that might be too meta for some of y'all, but I think that there is a truth to it. It means that the way we treat clerks, opponents, strangers in our daily lives matters as much as the way that we treat judges, colleagues, and bosses. It means that we cannot expect from anyone else what we are not willing to give of ourselves. It means that this is just the beginning. We are women and men who have shared this experience, this home. As Professor Bryson says, Virginia is a small town. And I take comfort in that because many of our paths will continue to cross. I had some great conversations and got a lot of advice from you all today, mostly a compilation of memories that reinforced two things for me. One, law school really isn't what we expected it to be. And two, I can't imagine a better group to experience it with. But the overwhelming consensus, keep it short. And if I learned only one thing in law school, it is to know my audience. So congratulations, friends. We did it.
Thank you, Liz. Each year, the students from the graduating class also select a member of the faculty to speak to them at commencement. This year's faculty speaker is Ron Bassigal. Professor Bassigal joined the faculty in 1971 and teaches in the areas of criminal law, criminal process and procedure, and evidence. He is author or co-author of over a dozen books and almost 50 articles on these subjects, and is widely regarded as the leading authority on Virginia criminal law and procedure. It's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague, Ron Bassigal.
Thank you. I'm afraid I've got bronchitis, so I'm going to last as long as my throat and lungs do. When I was healthy, I'd prepared a 3 or 4 hour speech, so I hope you're not too disappointed if I have to shorten it, right? Well, congratulations, you all made it, right? 3 years down and 1 bar exam to go. Not trying to rain on your parade mentioning the bar exam. I'm here to give you some last education how you're going to pass the bar exam. Actually, the advice comes from former UVA Dean Monrad Paulson telling you how to get through the bar. This is a classic story that probably some of the faculty have heard before, but it is classic, so it bears repeating. Like Paulson spent 3 years in law school, like you did, studying complex political and social issues. Like you, it was a success, so he figured, when he got to the bar, he wasn't that intimidated. Unfortunately, when he opened the bar exam, the first question was, how many people serve on the Virginia State Corporation Commission? So much for great theory versus cold hard facts, right? So he resisted the temptation to write the obvious answer, beats the hell out of me. Instead, he decided to hunker down and make some use of his legal education. So he figured he didn't know how many corporation commissioners there were, but he knew the commission was created by the Virginia General Assembly, which has 100 members. And he deduced, well, they're not going to create a state agency larger than themselves, so there must be less than 100 corporation commissioners. That deduction doesn't sound all that impressive. Remember, he started from 1 to infinity, and he'd now used his analytical powers to eliminate everything over 100. Then he reasoned that, well, the General Assembly wouldn't create a semi-judicial body that was larger than Virginia Supreme Court, which has 7 justices. Therefore, there must be less than 7 state corporation commissioners. So far, so good, right? So he's on a roll, and he figures tie votes would paralyze the Corporation Commission, so you can't have an even number like 2, 4, or 6. So now he's limited down to 1, 3, or 5. Okay? He then remembers that on the seal of Virginia, the motto is Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. If you remember, that's what John Wilkes Booth called out after he assassinated Lincoln. So Paulson figured with a motto like that, Virginia's not going to put all the power in the hands of one person, so there must be more than one corporation commissioner. Having started with a range from 1 to infinity, he now narrowed it down to either 3 or 5. At that point, he ran out of both logic and time, so he flipped a coin and put his answer as 5. The correct answer is 3. But Paulson said the bar examiners were so impressed by his legal analysis that they gave him 60% credit for the wrong answer. Paulson said this demonstrated something important about the law, that legal analysis can be as important as empirical accuracy. Or as he also expressed it in more earthy tones, sometimes a little bullshit goes a long way. I'm sure none of you ever used that approach on your law school exams, right? Remember, I'm still grading some of your exams. Paulson's story illustrates a number of things about law school. It tells you that law school is more than memorizing facts, whether the facts be the number of corporation commissioners or the exact language of a constitution. It also teaches you, however, that you do have to have some empirical knowledge. That had Paulson not been able to draw on his knowledge that there were 100 members of the General Assembly and 7 members of the Supreme Court, all of his legal analysis would have been useless. So legal logic, or any kind of logic, takes us from a premise to conclusion, but it can't supply that first premise. Okay? Together for 3 years, we've been studying legal analysis, and we've been searching for those workable first premises from which we can start applying our logic. Now, those premises come from politics, sociology, science, all the knowledge that we can muster. The lay people often feel that the law is a self-contained, detailed rules like the Internal Revenue Code, but legal scholars often wonder if the law is anything but a combination of economics, politics, philosophy, you name it. Okay. Now, at this point, it might sound like a relationship with the legal profession is a one-way street. We lawyers take from all these other disciplines, but what do we give back? Okay. What I suggest we give in return is a profession of generalists who have at least passing knowledge of a great many fields. Justice Frankfurter used to say that a lawyer becomes an expert in so many fields for so short a time. When you got an antitrust case, you're going to have to become an amateur economist. Then you might move on to your next case, study medical science in order to deal with the abortion controversy. So, as pompous as it sounds, we lawyers may be the last of the Renaissance men and women. Right? We don't teach humility in law school, sorry about that. But now, sometimes a fleeting knowledge of all these different fields, it may fit Dean Paulson's comment that, sometimes it's BS, or the classic warning, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. But there are other times when reducing complex theories down to more manageable levels allows experts in all these diverse fields to better communicate with each other. It's often said that when Einstein formulated his special theory of relativity, there were only 5 or 6 people in the world that could understand what he was saying. What Einstein needed was a good lawyer, right? If there had been a case involving the special theory of relativity, some lawyer somewhere would have found a way to comprehend the theory at least well enough to explain it to a judge and jury. If you question my assertion that we are the last of the Renaissance people, I ask you, who else would stand up here today and quote from intellectuals like Einstein and from Justice Frankfurter, and then conclude my remarks with a Walt Disney story? Okay? Don't worry, I'm not going to start singing, do you want to build a snowman? Okay? The Disney story is that the young child approaches Disney and says, do you draw the characters? He says, no, not anymore. Well, do you write the stories? No. Do you write the music that the characters sing? No, don't do that either. So the befuddled child says, what do you do? And an amused Disney says, I visit the animators, and then I visit the storytellers, and then I visit the music composers, and then I circulate their ideas between the different groups. Think of me as a little bee that offers the pollen of creativity so that growth can occur. Okay? You know, that when you talk about lawyers and how we handle that, sometimes we're irritating. You know, bees are sometimes irritating. People want to shoo them away with a wave of the hand. Same way society sometimes wants to shoo away those pesky lawyers. But if at times we seem like irritating amateurs, dabbling in politics and all the rest of that, realize that what you are doing is contributing to communication between what would otherwise be isolated disciplines. You are serving your purpose like those bees. So my advice to you today is go forth and be busy little bees. Okay? This will please the senior partners in your law firm, but it will also contribute to your higher calling of contributing to general knowledge in our society. Okay? On a personal note, I'd like to remind you that the University of Richmond has been your home for 3 years. So come home again sometime and visit your old professors. We're all very proud of you today, and we wish you good luck in your career and in your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Joining us for this happy occasion is the Honorable Marla Graf Decker of the Court of Appeals of Virginia, a member of the Law School Alumni Association and a proud Richmond Law graduate. She will welcome you as the newest members of the Alumni Association and will introduce our commencement speaker, Judge Decker.
So they needed somebody that would contrast the height of the director, and I fit the bill, being 5'2", but it is my privilege and honor to be here today and to first congratulate the class of 2016. I know several of you from being a faculty member and from many years doing things at the school, and you are a brilliant class. And when I say brilliant, I don't just mean smart. You all have such winning personalities, such a love of the law, and a respect for the rule of law. You are going to go far. And today, I'm happy to be here to celebrate the end of your beginning and to welcome you into the profession. Your first good choice as soon-to-be graduates was the lineup of graduation speakers. I'm so honored to have been selected to introduce Director Jim Comey, and he's actually someone who doesn't really need an introduction, and of course Dean Perdue told me please keep it short, so I plan to do that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, you can read his resume, and his distinguished career is obvious to anybody who reads the newspapers. But what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about his very special connection to Richmond, not only to this university as a distinguished adjunct professor, but also his tenure as managing assistant U.S. attorney here in the Richmond office. Jim Comey came to Richmond at a time when we had a significant violent crime problem, and murder rates were out the roof. He came at a time when Richmond was at a pivotal period. It could have gone one way or it could have gone another. And what makes Jim such a special person to those of us who had the opportunity to work with him when he was a young prosecutor. You're welcome, Jim, young. He was a young prosecutor, and he was a visionary. And it was one of his first formal leadership positions. And he came to Richmond thinking, well, I'm gonna help develop a team, and that he did. He took a lot of local, state, and other federal partners and put together what some of us who watched it happen said were the dream team, and made a difference in Richmond. And the way he made a difference was not the way you would think, not so much in the prosecution of the cases or in the managing of the attorneys that prosecuted the cases, but in building the team that looked at cases on a neighborhood basis. How do we make the neighborhood better? How do we make the community better? How do we do that and respect the rule of law and respect the justice system? Jim I can show you the data, but Jim made a difference. And we all knew when he started to do things that he wasn't going to be with us particularly long, because he had a big future ahead of him, and he went on, of course, to that big future. But one of the things that I would say about all of the positions that he has held, it's not that he held those positions, it is the way in which he served in those posts. He's a man of integrity. He is a man that respects the rule of law. He is a man that doesn't do what's easy. He does what's right at every turn. And he is truly and should be a role model for each and every one of you. He has stepped up, and now as director of FBI has taken over at a very pivotal time, a very challenging time for our country. He stepped up and he's doing the job. I thank you, Jim, for your service to the people of the United States, and I look forward to your remarks.
Great job. Thank you, Marla, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a thrill to be back here in a community I love, at a school that made such a difference in my life, and it still feels like home to me. I don't mean to be rude to you folks, but I'm going to talk to these people over here because I want to offer just very briefly one reflection from my career in government, then a piece of advice about public service, and then I'll get out of your way. Let me start with the piece of advice. When I think about the successful people I've known, whether they were lawyers or physicians or business leaders or government leaders, there was an overwhelmingly common attribute, which is judgment. Judgment is different than intelligence, right? Intelligence is actually fairly common. Judgment is very rare. Intelligence is the ability to solve a riddle, to master an equation, to nail a set of facts. Lots of people can do that. Judgment is the ability to circle, to orbit that answer and see it as it might be seen through the eyes of others, to move the answer in place and time, to try and see how it might be seen a year from now in Congress, 5 years from now in a newspaper editorial office. How might other people experience this? Judgment is the ability to say what something means. When you're graphing something, very intelligent people can master a data set and show you the answer on a graph. People of great judgment can look at that and say, that's what it says, let me tell you what it means. So where does this come from? This ability to orbit a situation and see it through the eyes of others and move it in place and time? I think it comes mostly from the way you were raised, comes from screwing up, from doing things that tick people off, and then remembering that, aha, that's how people see that, that's how they experience it. It is mostly a gift to you, and it's nurtured along the way. That gift is protected and nurtured. Now, think about what you've just done for the last 3 years, and I know it's early, maybe a little raw right now, but think about what you have practiced doing for 3 years. You have practiced, with the help of these great people, taking a situation and moving it in your mind, asking yourself and being asked in a very demanding way, so how would that be different in this place or that place? How would it be different if we changed the facts? How would it be different if we change some of the assumptions? And by the way, what are your assumptions? How sure are you of what you just said? And how would that change if I changed this little thing? Believe it or not, you were being drilled in the practice of judgment. To take an answer, to take a situation and see it from different perspectives, move it around, and experience it through the eyes of another. That is an extraordinarily valuable gift to you. It requires, as your student speaker said, a measure of humility, because it is very, very difficult to escape the trap that is each of us. I can only experience the world through the experience of an awkward 6'8" white person from the New York metropolitan area. Almost nobody else experienced the world the same way I do. And so how do I get in their heads and see the way they see it so that I can be a better leader, a better lawyer, a better husband, a better person? Judgment is the answer. Being intentional about fostering my ability to ask myself, how could it be seen differently? So you've just spent 3 years practicing that. That's necessary but not sufficient. It won't shock you to know there are those people who've gotten out of law school and not demonstrated great judgment in the rest of their lives. You have to stay after it. And how do you do that? I have 2 slightly weird pieces of advice. The first is sleep. Sleep. Sleep is not a moral failing, right? I always knew it was really important. Now I've got all kinds of science to support me, right? What's going on while you sleep? Your brain is engaging in a neurochemical ballet to map the data that you took in during the day and make connections. It's laying down judgment in your head while you sleep. Sleep. My second slightly weird piece of advice is, you've got to keep a life. One of the things that nurtures and protects judgment is physical distance from whatever is dominating your life. In most of your cases, that'll be work. You've got to step away from the work. And I don't know whether it's kickboxing or stamp collecting or dancing. You must keep doing that, because that physical distance from the work fosters and protects your ability to orbit a situation and see it through different perspectives. Get away from this work. And as you do that, you got to love somebody. This hall, and I hope this world, is full of people called loved ones, because you are supposed to love them. There is a danger, especially in the life of a lawyer, and it's called get-back-itis. It's the idea that I got to do this important thing. I got this really important matter to handle. I'll get back to fill in the blank. My mother, my father, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my siblings, my friends, it doesn't matter. I will get back to that while I do this. One of the challenges of my job is I see a lot of bad things every day. There is no getting back. You will turn, and they will not be there. I have 5 children. I've experienced an extraordinary array of loved ones because they change each year as they get older. My wife doesn't change at all, by the way. They change each year as they get older. There's no experience in the world like feeling the pounding and hearing the pounding of a 2-year-old's footsteps as you come in the door at the end of the day. Be there for that. There is no getting back to that. It requires a fight, an actual fight, to maintain that sort of health in your life, because the get-back-itis will be overwhelming to you. Fight for that balance in your life. It's the right thing to do, but it will protect your judgment. So I want you to nurture judgment by sleeping and loving somebody, and sometimes those go together in appropriate circumstances, and that's fine. I believe the FBI director just said something like that, so I'm going to move on. Judgment is the attribute of successful people in this world. Don't let them tell you it's IQ. IQ is kind of a cover charge. Judgment is what makes the difference. So that's my piece of advice from my career. Now let me make a pitch for public service. I've left government service twice, and both times it left a hole in my heart. It took me a while the first time to figure out what was going on, and it happened when we moved from New York to Richmond in 1993. And I was a federal prosecutor in New York, and I wanted to be a federal prosecutor in Richmond, but there was a hiring freeze, which got in the way of that transition within the government. And so I went to a big law firm, a great law firm, with great people, and they gave me matching furniture, which I had not had in my government career yet. I actually had drapes that matched the furniture. I had a parking space, they paid me well, had interesting issues, colleagues I really liked, but something was missing. And it was my amazing wife, Patrice, who noticed it first. She said one day, "What's wrong with you?" Something she says in lots of different contexts, but she said, "What's wrong with you? We have a 5-bedroom colonial we paid $252,000 for, right? We live in this amazing community of Richmond, Virginia. The kids love it here. What is wrong with you?" And I said, "You know what it is? I think I miss getting up in the morning and being part of trying to do something good every day. I actually miss work with moral content. As obnoxious as that sounds, I really miss it." And so 3 years later, because thank goodness one of your great professors left government service to come to a different kind of service, I took John Douglas's job at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And I wasn't as smart, I wasn't as good looking, I wasn't as funny, but I had the job. And so I was back in public service, and I was a very happy person. Once you have done that kind of work, service work, it doesn't have to be in the government, but doing something that's not about you and it's not about money, it's addictive. And when you leave it, it leaves a hole in your heart. The challenge of being successful lawyers is oftentimes the things that are siren songs of prestige and money draw you in a different direction. I know it can be hard to do public service work. It's hard on your credit cards. It can be very hard to do for an entire career. But I actually ache for my law school classmates from 30 years ago who've never even tried. Because here's what I worry. Professor Bassigal quoted Albert Einstein. I'll quote him again. Einstein urged young people, try not to be people of success, try to be people of value. Right? If you have never taken the time to try and be part of doing something with moral content as part of your work, you will have missed something. Augustine said, "Human honor is but smoke which has no weight." There's a danger that you can get to the end of a life and realize you've accumulated the smoke of success but nothing of real value. So here's my most depressing piece of advice for you, and I'll close with this uplifting message. Occasionally you need to do something weird and close your eyes and imagine yourself at the end of your life. I told you this wouldn't be an uplifting moment. I hope you're old and gray at that point. I so hope I'm old and gray at that point. But close your eyes, be old and gray, and look back and ask this question from that vantage point. Who do I want to have been? Who do I want to have been? Because if you ask it that way, the smoke is cleared. The things that get in the way when you only live life forward, houses, cars, money, human honor, the next big thing, all that stuff is stripped away. At the end of your life, who cares about that stuff? What will matter in a real sense will come into view. And everybody's answer will be different in a different way. My answer is I want to be somebody, have been somebody who was a great husband and father and friend. I want to know my children, and God willing, their children. And I want to have been somebody who, with whatever ability I had, I took some time to do something for people who needed me. I hope you will work hard to take the amazing education you've gotten here, where you've been taught judgment, where you've been exposed to the world, to important issues, to the challenges so many people in our communities and our country face. Hope you will take the time to answer that question now and let it guide the way you live your life. Be people of value. I hope at the end of this life, you are people who look back and say, I did something I loved. I was part of something that meant a great deal to me. And I hope you remember that this education began what I hope will be a remarkable and fulfilling journey. You are very, very lucky. Congratulations.
Director Comey, thank you so very much for those remarks. I would now like to introduce Associate Dean Jim Gibson, who will present student honors and awards.
Good afternoon. The law school's third-year class gift was established in 2005, and ever since it's been growing both in size and in participation. And the educational experience that you had over the last 3 years was made possible in large part by those who came before you, the generosity of alumni and friends who support this community. And so we hope you'll continue your generous giving in support of the institution. And with that, we turn to the Class Gift Committee representatives, Tyler Klink and Beth Kendall, who will present the class gift to Dean Perdue.
On behalf of the class of 2016, I'd like to present to you, Dean Perdue, what is the largest class gift in the history of the University of Richmond School of Law.
Thank you. That's fabulous. Thank you so much for this. This is part of the longstanding tradition of alumni offering their support to the next generation of Richmond Law students, and we're very grateful for that. Thank you.
So now I have the best job of the afternoon. I don't have to give a speech. I just get to give out awards to our very deserving students. You can find the description of the awards in your commencement program. We're going to start with this year's recipient of the Virginia Trial Lawyers Association Student Trial Advocate Award, which this year's recipient is a talented advocate, competed in the John L. Costello National Mock Trial Competition, receiving the highest score of any of the prosecution teams. She's also done an outstanding job running the Trial Advocacy Board. If Sam Sedevy would please come forward to receive the recognition. This year's winner of the International Academy of Trial Lawyers Student Advocacy Award is also a natural litigator. He was a regional runner-up in the American Association of Justice Trial Advocacy Competition, and as the partner of our last award winner, he was national runner-up in the John L. Costello National Criminal Law Trial Competition. I'm talking, of course, about Dan O'Brien, if Dan could come forward. I'm now proud to announce the names of the graduating students receiving the honor of the designation of Order of the Barristers for excellence in advocacy. I would ask that each student please stand and remain standing as I call everyone's name. Travis Bice, Carrie Chilton, Barrett Enix, Andrew Landrum, Carter Nichols, Dan O'Brien, Milena Radovic, Sam Sedevy, and although he isn't here with us today, Mo Sherman. A round of applause. The winner of this year's Family Law Award has devoted herself to the practice of family law throughout her time in law school, and we look forward to seeing her successfully continue that practice as an attorney. If Allison Linscott could please come forward. This year's recipient of the National Association of Women Lawyers Award has had a long-standing commitment to advocacy on behalf of women. One nominator stated that she is a classic example of professionalism, perseverance, dedication, and compassion. Throughout law school, she has been an outspoken voice for women, and we have no doubt that she will continue this role throughout her career. Of course, I'm talking about Meg Donovan. Meg? The winners of the American Bar Association Bureau of National Affairs Award for Excellence in the Field of Intellectual Property goes to 3 students who have demonstrated superior academic performance across all the fields of IP. And all 3 of this year's recipients are also slated to receive the school's intellectual property certificate. If we could please have at the podium Jimmy Steiner, Jonathan Mark, and Travis Bice. Why don't you go with that? The Osville Jackson Jr. Award for Excellence in Intellectual Property goes to the student who has made an enduring contribution to the study of IP law through activities both in and outside the classroom. This year's winner shows great promise as a future practitioner in the field and has been an outstanding organizer of and ambassador for Richmond Law's IP program. If Bradford Schultz could please come forward. The American Bar Association and Bureau of National Affairs also recognizes excellence in the study of labor and employment law. This year, we are fortunate to have 3 outstanding students worthy of recognition for demonstrated expertise in this field. Dylan Taylor, Riley Moore, and Megan Carbone. Please come forward. The American Bankruptcy Institute Medal of Excellence goes to a student who has excelled in bankruptcy studies and intends to pursue a career in bankruptcy law. This year, we're happy to recognize John Haste. If John could come forward, please. The T.C. Williams Law School Scholarship Award is reserved for those who have made the most significant contribution to overall legal scholarship throughout their law school career. And this year, the faculty would like to recognize 2 recipients. The first for his scholarship and his outstanding job as editor-in-chief of the University of Richmond Law Review, and the second for his work in the creation and design of the Law Review's inaugural online edition. Thomas DeStanislow and Carter Nichols, please come forward. We also have this year 2 winners for the Oral Brown Award for Clinical Excellence in the Children's Law Center. And both recipients have demonstrated outstanding service to their clients and to the clinic, and we look forward to their success as advocates in practice. If Susie Bass and Kelsey Martin would please come. The Cudlip Medal is given to the member of the class having the highest cumulative grade point average at the end of their 2nd year. We don't yet know their 3rd year grade point averages, sorry. This year that honor goes to Thomas DeStanislow. This year, the faculty has awarded the Public Interest Law Association Pro Bono Award to 2 students. The first dedicated countless hours to the Carrico Center's Pro Bono Criminal Appeals Program on a case that made it to the Virginia Court of Appeals twice. He was publicly commended in that case by the judge, his supervising attorney, and, this shows that you've truly done a good job, by the opposing counsel. The second recipient has demonstrated an equally serious passion for public interest work. In addition to numerous volunteer activities, she served as an outstanding editor-in-chief for our Public Interest Law Review. Zach McDonald and Cassie Schroff. Now we come to an award that isn't given every year, the Nina R. Keston Service Award. The faculty only selects a student to receive this award when he or she has shown extraordinary contributions to the school, the community, and the legal profession. But awarding it this year was an easy call. The winner's commitment to public interest stretches from community service to legal advocacy, from being a program manager with the Carrico Center to being a court-appointed special advocate. As one of her many, many fans in the faculty put it, she arrived at law school with the immovable belief that she would use her skills, education, and training for the betterment of the most vulnerable in our society. I'm talking, of course, about Cassie Powell. Finally, we come to this year's winner of the Charles T. Norman Award for the Best All-Around Student. And this recipient is truly one of a kind. He's been deeply committed to pro bono service, devoting many hours to mentoring young JAG candidates and wounded warriors. He's continued his military commitment after several tours in the Middle East, which required many trips to Camp Lejeune. He turned down an opportunity to serve as Director of Intelligence for Special Operations in Iraq in order to pursue his true desire to serve the public as an attorney. But what makes this year's recipient truly remarkable is his ability to exhibit experience, leadership, and devotion to service in a way that encourages others around him to do the same. Bubba Flores, please come forward. How about one final round of applause for all of our award recipients this afternoon?
Graduation is a very special occasion because it gives the university an opportunity to recognize those who have completed the requirements of the faculty and who have fulfilled the expectations of the entire university community. Our warm congratulations go to all of those members of the University of Richmond School of Law class of 2016 as we now prepare to present them with their diplomas. I now call on Dr. Fetro, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Will the graduating class please rise? President Crutcher, on behalf of the University of Richmond School of Law, I have the honor to present to you the candidates for the degrees Master of Laws and Juris Doctor.
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and upon the faculty's recommendation of completed requirements, I confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor of the University of Richmond with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereto.
Congratulations, Richmond School of Law, class of 2016. Will the graduates please now come forward to receive your diplomas?
We now recognize the candidates for the Master of Laws degree for May 2016. Yassine B. Akalan. Mahan Ashuri. Mohammed Imtiaz Hussein. Azhar Mahmoudi. We now recognize those graduates who completed the degree of Juris Doctorate on January 13th, 2016. Demetrius Emmanuel Carls. We now recognize the candidates for the Juris Doctorate degree for May 2016. Jeremy Lee Baker. Sharika A. Banks. Jennifer Ann Barnes. Patrick Stevens Barr. Susanna J. Bass. Carolyn Ann Beatty. Avery Annabelle Burley. Corwin David Bennett. David R. Berry. Daniel Travis Bice. Dylan Donald Bishop. Ashley N. Boaz. Patrice Antoinette Boone. Alexander Page Monroe Boyd. Matthew Bo Byer. Wilson J. Brakefield. Amy R. Braun. Luke Joshua Bresnahan. John Patrick Brown. Beth Lillian Browning. Brittany Margaret Burns. Charles R. Colton. Megan M. Carboni. Keith Allen Carpenter, Jr. Douglas S. Caslow. Mary B. Chamberlain. Carrie Maureen Shilton. Jennifer Marie Coleman. Nathan C. Coulter. Tyler W. Crow. John George Daniluk. Ashley Ann DeVoli. Joseph Earl Dean II. Christopher Ryan Dodson. Megan Ann Donovan. William Ryan Dunn. Morgan R. Emanuel. Barrett James Enix. Hannah M. Pasheen. Colby Ray Ferguson. Shannon Marie Fitzgerald. Andrew Joseph Flavin. Albert Silverio Flores, Jr. Brian Martin Frame. Mary Catherine Gavin. Kellen Rose Gibson. Sarah Elizabeth Lane Gonzalez. Jonathan Andrew Haste. John J. Haratunian. Lisa Lynn Haratunian. Samuel Page Higginbotham III. Alexander Thomas Hiller. Jason Ryan Hodge. John J. Hogan. Nathan T. Hertz. Troy Kirkpatrick Jenkins. Benjamin D. Johnson. Brittany Shante Johnson. Brooke Heather Cargman. Andrew Evans Castenbaum. Caitlin Joan Keir. Christopher Michael Keegan. Joshua R. Kelly. Catherine Elizabeth Kendall. Tyler Alexander Klink. Rebecca Lee Cohn. Brockenbrough Aubin Lamb. Andrew T. Landrum. Michael William Langan. Catherine E. Lawler. Alexandria Ray Lawson. Joshua Einsteins Lipchitz. Christopher C. Leslie. Allison Sandra Linscott. Stephen W. Lipman. Kathy Zion Liu. Zachary Lawrence McDonald. Michaela Elise McRae. Paula Alexandra Maldonado Torres. E. Nicole Manning. Jonathan Christopher George Mark. Kelsey Marie Martin. Dylan Matthews. Robert T. Mayfield. Riley C. Moore. John Carter Morgan III. Andrea Irene Musiris. Julie Marie Merle. Alexander Thomas Arthur Myers. John Andrew Myers, Jr. Carter R. Nichols. Daniel Francis O'Brien. Eric Ronald Orr. John William Panofsky. Daniel Yon J. Park. Sarah G. Patras. Eric David Pasto. Idalise Purea. Cassie Alexandra Powell. Melina Radovich. Holly Michelle Rashid. Sarah L. Ray. Anne Elizabeth Reed. Courtney Lynn Regal. Jimmy G. Rickert, Jr. Andrew Elliott Sassoon. Catherine Randolph Schroth. Bradford Christopher Schultz. Andrea R. Schumann. Clinton R. Seal. Laura Joseph Searle. Samantha Jane Sedavi. Jillian M. Samaniato. Robert T. Smith. William Wallace Smith III. Samuel Turner Sorrell. Ryan Charles Sperry. James D. Steiner. Peyton M. Stroud. Andrew Sullivan. Joseph Michael Sesko. Dylan D. Taylor. Kathleen Calloway Travis. Paulina Pavlona Svetikova, who has also earned a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army. Elizabeth Ingleby Foster Tyler. William Ryan Waddell. Eileen E. Waters. Ariana Nicole White. Jesse Allen Willard II. Christopher Rankin Williams. Holly Jane Wilson. Jennifer C. Wong. Marie Danielle Yosco Rosado. Thank you for everything. Welcome, sweetie. Kristen Britton Zigir. The following candidates are receiving their degrees today from various family members who are alumni of the University of Richmond. Philip Thomas DeStanislow III, presented by his father, Phyllis Thomas DeStanislow Jr., Richmond Law Class of 1981. Turn for the camera. You've got to get the picture. Turn right behind you. Robert Norwood Drury, presented by his father, Lee Drury, Richmond Law Class of 1983. Jacob Lee Glasser, presented by his father, Michael Glasser, Richmond Law Class of 1978. Andrew Christopher Coterides, presented by his father, Christopher Coterides, Richard S. Reynolds Graduate School, Robbins School of Business, Class of 1994. Drew Stephen Letourneau, presented by his father, Stephen P. Letourneau, Richmond Law Class of 1987. Gordon Murphy Phillips, presented by his father, Bruce Phillips, Richmond Law Class of 1981. Malcolm Brooks Savage III, presented by his uncle, William Savage, Richmond Law Class of 1986. I can't step down without correcting an error I made earlier. It's Charles R. Colton.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me in saluting the graduating class of 2016. Before we turn to the benediction, let me very briefly address the class of 2016. Each of you worked very hard for this accomplishment, but you did not do it alone. You stood on the shoulders of parents and grandparents, spouses, siblings, and friends. I'd therefore like to ask that the class of 2016 rise and turn and acknowledge all of those who helped you get here. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand as you are able for the benediction? Our benediction will be given by Chaplain Coker.
Now as you go, may God give you a tongue to speak the truth and a longing for justice, ears to hear the world's pain and a heart to respond, eyes to see beauty and imagination to embrace it, hands to receive the most precious things in life and cherish them forever, And may God keep you in peace and surround you in love today and always. Amen.
This concludes the graduation ceremony. Please remain in your seats as the platform party and students recess, and then join us at the reception in the Robbins Center Terrace, located upstairs. Ushers will direct you. Thank you, and have a wonderful Mother's Day and weekend.